I can never tell. This one does tend to come live quickly. Yeah, got to get used to how quickly it goes live. Who's already in chat? Luke and Fox of Fate. Hello, hello. Let me just see. What do we got going on here? I do not want that volume on. So yes, we're all good. Got it happening. Fox is having a rum and coke. Nice. I actually spent a bit of time earlier this evening looking up rum cocktail recipes to mark World Rum Day, and I found a daiquiri variant, or a nuclear daiquiri, and I'm going to make that. So, all good in the hood. So, yeah, so I don't really have any white rum. I do have cachaça, which is, as I've mentioned before, it's like Brazil's cousin to lime. Lime. You put lime into coconut and drink it all up with the rum. It's the cousin to rum. Uh, they both come from sugarcane, although the base of rum is molasses, which is sugarcane syrup that's been boiled right down till it's thick and dark, whereas cachaça is made just from the sugarcane syrup, so it's not boiled down. So it has a different flavor profile. I am honestly not particularly good at separating tastes in alcohol. I I make cocktails, and that's that. Yeah, I'm not one of those people who really okay. Having said that, I was about to say, I can't taste the difference in alcohol things. Obviously, I've had experience like I was going to say things like I can't taste the difference between like different vodkas and whatnot, but that's not true. They do taste different. Some are smoother than others. Some do have slightly different flavors. Like good old Crystal Head vodka that I kept the bottles from because they're such cool bottles, the decanters. That is, I've not drunk really expensive vodkas, but Crystal Head is the smoothest vodka I've drunk. And hi, Nug, how's it going? Yes, Fox, I'm with you. Well, I don't drink wine at all. I just don't like wine. But yes, when people start talking about hint of oak and floral notes, but they say that about Scotch, about whiskies. It's got notes of chocolate um, no, fucking whiskey's just strong. Yeah, look, I guess I can taste the difference between bourbon and Scotch, and to a lesser degree, the difference between Scotch and Irish whiskey. I mean, I'm just a Philistine. You get these people who are really obsessed about the different flavors. I'm just a Philistine. Hey, how's it going, Bunny? How's it going? Um, I've never developed a taste for wine or beer. Um, and as Mrs. Angry will attest, when she met me, I didn't really have a taste for spirits either. But I have developed one in the last 10 years. But yes. Look, you like brandy? I like brandy in cocktails. One of my all-time favorite cocktails is the Sidecar, which is a brandy-based cocktail. In fact, I didn't know I liked brandy until I started making cocktails. Brandy is very good in cocktails. As a gun bunny, you like a good peated Scotch. Of course, Scotch generally is a smokier taste than bourbon, which is much sweeter. I can't really tell the difference between rye whiskey and bourbon. Most people say the main difference in taste. I mean, it's got a different base grain, and rye tends to be less sweet than bourbon. And hello, Miss Foxification. And apparently, Canadian whiskey can be substituted for rye. Apparently, Canadians make their whiskey from rye. Oh, that's funny. Aussie Company, you hate cognac. You're into Scotch and you think cognac tastes like battery acid. Most people think Scotch tastes really strong. Again, I don't really drink any of it straight. I very rarely drink any of it straight. I do have some that's cognac there, but yeah, it's for cocktails. Cognac is like the more fortified version of brandy. Uh, and I think cognac is regarded as being an upmarket cousin to brandy. But of course, you can get cheap cognacs and expensive cognacs, and you can get cheap brandies and expensive brandies. So, I expect all these things are relative. I think I've been thinking about it. I think I am going to start like a cocktail YouTube channel, which is really just a booze YouTube channel. It's really just so I can make alcohol purchases tax deductible when it comes down to it. Oh, I love that. Ashoka, you reckon only high quality cognac? Well, that's a Hennessy. It's not the most expensive Hennessy, but it's not the cheapest Hennessy either. That's the one that the rappers, the US rappers, talk about the Henny in the nightclubs, drinking Henny. They're probably a more expensive Hennessy than that, but that's not the cheapest Hennessy. But there, Kaiju. You never knew you wanted 10th Doctor and Lucian from Underworld, Heaven, Hell, slash fiction. But anyway, man, there's so much slash fiction with what do we call it? Uh, Good Omens, which I'm a couple of episodes in and enjoying. And I like David Tennant as the Demon Crowley in Good Omens. He's like a camper version of his Doctor Who. And I feel like he's channeling the actor Bill Nye every time with his physicalization and the accent he's using. I just go, he's like a young Bill Nye. It's not Bill Nye the Science Guy, the British actor Bill Nye. Whereas whether it's pronounced Nye or Nye or Nye, I think it's just pronounced Nye. It's like a Gaelic name. But yes. Well, that's an interesting take, Gun Bunny. If you have a cheap port, add some mid-range brandy. I don't mind port. I will occasionally. I've got some port. Yeah, I've got some port over there. I will occasionally just have, be sophisticated. Have a little snifter of port. Just sip. I do not mind that at all. God, you're too gay you're too fast for me, Crowley. That's the gayest line ever. Oh my God, the fanfic for Crowley and Azrael is fucking hilarious. I do like your take though, Kaiju. Don't make it Crowley Azrael slash fic. Go left field with it. Make it the 10th Doctor and Lucian from Underworld. Lucian the werewolf from Underworld. I really like your take on that. This Fox Crazy, you bring up the latest on Epstein, multiple breaks in his neck bones. It is just the funniest story ever because him dying in prison is sus as fuck. And I try so hard to avoid conspiracy theories, but this one is super difficult to resist. Gumbuddy, you reckon the crown? I reckon I stick by I reckon it's at least I reckon it's at least 25% likely that he was whacked. I just think it's 75% likely he did end his own life. But as I pointed out, him ending his own life doesn't rule out criminal conspiracy, because for him to be in a situation where he could do that and no one stop him requires either the most extreme gross negligence and incompetence imaginable, or a criminal conspiracy to put him in there. And of that split, I lean very, and I mean very slightly, to criminal conspiracy. Sorry, not criminal conspiracy, to incompetence. 55 to 60% likely it is just incompetence, because the US prison system is just riddled with incompetence and understaffing. Yeah, Fox, no, you're actually repeating absolutely incorrect conspiracies. There is not a guy in the same prison as Epstein who has been able to say it wasn't possible. That simply isn't true. That is absolutely not true. Uh, and yeah, so this is what I mean about it being too easy to fall into conspiracies. But it's, I still think the funniest thing was uh, just just after he died. Um, uh, I listened to a couple of podcasts, and they were broadly from that group that gets called the Dirtbag Left, and that was Chapo Trap House and some of their friends, some people they do stuff with, and it was just consistently hilarious in retrospect, because they were joking about if Epstein died in prison, that would just be the wildest thing. Others, they were saying like it can't possibly happen, but oh my god, wouldn't it be the wildest thing ever if it did happen? And then it happened, and then they're all unashamedly saying this is definitely a conspiracy. There's no way that he just spontaneously did this. But see, misfoxification, that's what I mean by criminal conspiracy in him taking his own life. Just about, I really do believe it was just him, but there's a pretty solid chance that the circumstances in which he found himself was part of a criminal conspiracy. I was again, when he's saying he got told to kill himself or they Kennedy his whole family. I don't think he's got any family. What family does he have? I don't know everything about him, but I thought one thing uh, was that he didn't actually have any family. I obviously could easily be wrong because I haven't looked that deeply into him. But yeah, that was one of the weird. That was what I thought was one of the weird things about him, that he basically didn't have any family. So I can see you're quoting there, Miss Foxification, about the broken bones. What is the source from which you're quoting? Because I was not aware of there being any official announcement. But also, I haven't been completely keeping up with it, so I do not know. Um, but the hilarious thing is, no matter what, literally no matter what, uh, this is so wild. There are people who are never going to never going to believe it. Like seriously, if I know, see, misfoxification, I call utter complete bullshit on two people familiar with the findings, not on you, on whoever's reporting it. I just, that's a thing I won't indulge in this case. Until someone puts their name to it, I'm not believing it at all. But of course, then you've got all these people who aren't going to believe whatever comes. I mean, seriously, like even if one of the obvious suspects, and I still think there's just no chance that it's the Clintons. They don't have that sway. And there's almost no chance it was anyone doing it on Trump's orders. But there were so many other rich and powerful people who could have had a, but it's very short-sighted and stupid because it's probably going to push for a bigger investigation. But anyway, let's just say one of the rich and powerful who was known to be in Epstein's circles is behind it. Say whoever did it, like whether it was a prison guard or an inmate, or a ninja assassin who sneaked in, say they confess and they say, I did it and this person put me up to it, this person paid me to do it, and then that person confesses in open court, yes, I ordered the hit, it was me. There are still an enormous number of people who won't believe it. They'll just say, oh no, that's a patsy covering up for the real one. This is just wild. I honestly think this is going to eclipse any other conspiracy theory. Gumby, you bring up JFK. The thing is, we do know what happened to JFK. There's been some weirdness around it, but for instance, in terms of the conspiracy mindset, that guy Jim Garrison, who is the central character in Oliver Stone's JFK, Jim Garrison was fucking nuts. Jim Garrison is you just have to read a bit on Jim Garrison, and he's absolutely fucking nuts. And then you only have to read a bit on Oliver Stone and you go, oh my God, he's fucking nuts. He sees conspiracies in everything. But that Oliver Stone film, JFK, has been very influential. And the campaign by Jim Garrison was very influential on the conspiracy mindset prior to that. But Jim Garrison's fucking nuts. Oliver Stone's fucking nuts. Big asterisk next to that, those people being nuts doesn't mean the conspiracies don't have some truth to them. I'm just saying, a lot of people, because the way Oliver Stone had Kevin Costner portray Jim Garrison in that movie was not at all nuts, but Jim Garrison is completely fucking nuts. And so is fucking Oliver Stone. Oh, see, here's the thing. Look, the level of conspiracies, and here's the thing. In the actual literal world, in the literal sense of the word, and also in the conspiratorial, paranoid sense of the word, Epstein is at the center of multiple conspiracies. Like Epstein, he's at the center of multiple conspiracies that involve rich, powerful people, senior politicians from around the world, intelligence agencies. Like you bring up that, is Barr Attorney General? I think he is. His dad was instrumental in the rise of Jeffrey Epstein, and his dad was in the OSS in the Second World War, which became the CIA. The Israeli Mossad is tied up with Epstein. British MI6 is tied up with Epstein. He's literally tied up with spy agencies. And the woman who appears to have been his procure, Ghislaine, I don't know how you pronounce the name, but it looks like Ghislaine, which is great because that sounds like a cut price sex shop. Come on down to Ghislaine for all your seedy porno needs. She's Robert Maxwell's daughter. He was a Mossad asset, and he died at sea. And people who love conspiracies insist he didn't just fall overboard; he was offed. But I mean, literally everything about him is a conspiracy. Aussie Gumbunny, you heard Stephen Hawking from me. Yes, Stephen Hawking partied with Epstein after he'd been convicted of sex offences. So, but an enormous number of very high-profile scientists have partied with Epstein because Epstein donated millions and millions and millions of dollars to scientific research. and he fancied himself as a super smart dude, and he'd have all these weighty conversations with great minds, but he bought them all off. So all these people. Oh, and if you want a real funny one, to my mind, probably the funniest person implicated in this is the lawyer Alan Dershowitz, who has been with Epstein for years, and we all know what Epstein's thing was sexually abusing minors, and Alan Dershowitz has published pieces arguing that the age of consent should be lower. He's saying this is not a moral argument, but it's a constitutional argument. It's like, dude, you're not fooling anyone. Everyone knows you're just trying to justify the fact you got the horn for little girls. Um, and Dershowitz has said the funniest stuff in interviews since Epstein was arrested again. Just talking about his perfect sex life, and he was at this party and he never took off his underpants, and it's just like, dude, no one believes you. Everyone believes you're a creepy old man. Everyone just believes you're a creepy old man who went to this degenerate's exploitation parties. That's a pretty good argument, Ashoka, about JFK. The way he was killed seems more like desperation. The CIA would have put him to sleep like Marilyn Monroe. Oh, and JFK took so many fucking drugs. He was on so many drugs. It would have been so easy to dose him. And then his family would have wanted to cover it up, not be investigated, because they would have your first assumption if you were anyone close to JFK and he dropped dead, you'd assume a drug overdose because he took so many fucking drugs, painkillers and amphetamines, and even I'm not even sure if MDMA was around in the 60s, but he was taking something really similar to MDMA, but he was almost constantly on heavy painkillers and amphetamines to counter the drowsiness caused by the painkillers. Because he had a pretty nasty back injury, and that's why he took all the painkillers, and then he took all the amphetamines to counter the drowsiness thing. He was a fuck up. God, you think JFK was immune to drugs because of how many he took? It doesn't actually work that way. But yeah, it's a reasonable point to say the shooting assassination of JFK was so risky and so likely to fail. If you really wanted him dead, that's not how you would have done it. And hey, Justin, how are you doing this fine evening? We can't get away from conspiracies because we are in the midst of one of the biggest conspiracies to ever happen. Yeah, I know you're Josh and Kaiju, but I thought it was fun to indulge with the joshing. Because it's a crazy old world we live in. It is a very, very, very crazy world. So, just who knew? Hey, has everyone watched the video I uploaded? I meant to do it last night, but because of excessive editing that I did, it wasn't ready, and I left it to render when I went to work today. So I only put it up when I got home. Ms. Voxation reckon you're going to blame Epstein's death for the economy tanking. We are on a fucking roller coaster on the way down into a nasty fucking economic downturn. It's going to be very, very ugly. Just as a government employee, the conspiracies are bullshit. I having worked in both government and private enterprise, I have difficulty believing most large-scale conspiracies because I have trouble believing complicated conspiracies because people just can't work together. See, the Epstein stuff is not complicated. Rich, powerful people paying money to have someone procure minors for them to sexually exploit. That's not complicated. Also, the truth came out. We know about it. So Epstein's conspiracies aren't complicated. The complicated ones, like fake moon landing, 9/11 was an inside job, those are patently fucking ridiculous. Oh, yes, Kaju, I did see the FBI raided his island. Fuck knows what they'll find there. That's dodgy as shit. Oh, yes, gun money, the nuclear accident in Russia. Uh, isn't the latest that it was a malfunction of a weapon, like an actual weapon detonated? Uh, because there were all sorts of weird stories and denials and whatnot. And I think they're at least on the cusp of admitting that it was a nuclear related accident. Um, fucking hell. Yeah. So yeah, that's dodgy AF. Yes. So yeah, if a missile that blew up on the ground, not good, not good at all. If that's what actually happened, if it's not something else again, they're just giving us a sequel to Chernobyl, the sequel no one asked for. Sorry. Oh, that made me laugh, Miss Foxification. Yeah, it is one of the big things that shoots down moon landing conspiracies that it would require, besides the cooperation of hundreds, if not thousands, of people in the US, it required cooperation from the Russians because the Russians tracked the whole thing. And they had a vested interest in saying it didn't happen, but it never occurred to them to say something that fucking stupid. But I do agree it would be funny if Putin started trolling the US by just saying, oh, I've just uncovered secret files in the Kremlin that show the US really did fake the moon landings. That would be funny. Someone should tell Putin to do that. That would be funny. That would be super, super funny. Mm. Oh my God. See, if Putin had a, it's not that Putin's without a sense of humor. It's dark and evil. Um, but I think actually, like he had that meeting with Angela Merkel, who's famously afraid of dogs, and he brought his big fucking dog into the meeting and just smirked at her discomfort because he's a fucking psycho. Oh, that would make my day if Putin decided to troll the US and say he now has evidence the moon landings were faked. That would be fucking great. Oh yeah, company, the fucking anti-vaxxers. I was going to say I don't know that I even count them as a conspiracy, but they do because they say there's a conspiracy to poison us all with vaccination, and it's not necessary, and it doesn't do anything. And yeah, cricket bat to the head with that crowd, quite honestly, because they're killers. They are actually killers. We are on the cusp of truly horrific outbreaks of these, and they mainly affect children, not just children, so adults and particularly old people. But we are on the cusp of having another fucking plague uh, of these preventable childhood illnesses, um, killing and permanently disabling thousands of kids. It's like these people are such fucking scum. Oh sure. Yeah, you are right that Dick Cheney did benefit to the tune of billions of dollars from 9/11, but that was just cashing in. Um, that was just shameless criminal cashing in on a terrible event. And again, how he got away with that, I'll never know. Through his cronies, they stole billions of dollars. It absolutely does. Like, ultimately, and here's the thing, they deliberately faked uh, evidence that led them to convince people they should invade Iraq. They just had this insane belief if they could install a puppet democracy, that would work, and it would be a miracle, and all the oil pipelines would be safer, and Israel would be safer. They convinced themselves of the most stupid fucking idea. But even though they failed utterly and cost uh, the American taxpayer trillions of dollars, killed in excess of 1 million people, killed more Americans than the 9/11 attacks did, they all got away with it. It's crazy. Milk Alaska. Orange Crush is the official soda of Antifa. Fuck Fanta. Did you just find out Fanta was a Nazi drink? The Nazis invented Fanta in World War II? Fuck a lot of them, man. The official drink of Angry Aussie at the moment is creaming soda flavored Pepsi Max. Look, it's got a little pink. That probably looks white, but it's pink. Because much like all those weird misogynists who have somewhat of a fixation that I drink cocktails as opposed to like beer, like a man, I think they can fixate on, I'm drinking a girl's drink because it's got pink on it. So, yes. I mean, I found out, I joined the Dr. Oetker Pizza Appreciation Society on Facebook, and then it was revealed to us we're eating Nazi pizza. I think it's on the Wikipedia page for the famous Dr. Oetker that he was a Nazi. Like, oh no, eating Nazi pizza. It's just a thing, really. Oh, Justin, fighting with trolls. Yeah, look, I try particularly on Twitter when absolute randos can cross your path. Um, I try not to argue with people because even if they're not trolls or even Russian trolls, even if they're just really fucking like thick as shit misogynists or Trump supporters or neo Nazis or whatever, um, I've just learned through like repeated painful experience, there is literally no point in indulging them. There's no value. You're not going to reach them. And they won't shut the fuck up. That's what gets to me. They won't shut the fuck up. They won't just say their piece and fuck off. If people would do that, if people would just fucking say their piece and fuck off, I wouldn't be so bothered by them. But they won't shut the fuck up. They won't go away until you fucking block them. So I just fucking block them. Human Zones was best Benito Mussolini's favorite sauce. Is that true? When did Mussolini die? So Newman's Own, you're talking about the actor Paul Newman with his famous sauces. When did he died in 1945. I knew you made that up. You trolling me? What's new? I don't even understand what you're saying now. The only Newman's Own I've ever heard of was the stuff put out by the actor Paul Newman. Although I'm going to look it up in case I think. No, Newman's Own, founded in 1982. Okay, not my imagination. Oh, Justin, that is a good point. Um, if you realise you are getting into an argument with someone who's paid or employed by a government to argue with you, that's a bit deranged. Yes, Milk Alaska. Newman's Own is a brand of pasta sauce branded with the actor Paul Newman, and it first came out in the 1980s. I'm old. I remember when it was a new thing. The Paul Newman's Own sauce. Shogo, no, sadly you're wrong. You're saying if 95% of people stay vaccinated, that's effective cover. No, no, it's not, because we keep seeing outbreaks, and we keep seeing outbreaks of diseases that were previously basically unheard of, particularly dangerous ones like measles. And it's happening in Europe. It's happening in America. I don't know that we've had any serious outbreaks in Australia, but no, any argument about herd immunity is bullshit, because these fucking pieces of shit have basically weakened the herd immunity. And of course, not everyone can get vaccines. There are a number of reasons that people can't be vaccinated, and that's where herd immunity kicks in. But these fuckwits have made the rate of vaccination go down to enough. We're getting major outbreaks of very dangerous diseases that, 2 decades ago, they just weren't there. So yeah, it's fucked. Kaju, D&D joke. What for anti-vaxxers? Press F for measles, kid. I don't get it, but that's okay. Alaska, you think we should have a vaccination for conspiracy theories? Um, yeah, a massive dose of morphine, I think, so they calm the fuck down. Uh, that's what I'd vaccinate people who are getting a bit too full on with their conspiracies. Vaccinate them with a big old dose of morphine, so they calm the fuck down. I was going to say, I was saying before, if people, because speaking of, oh, press F to pay respects. Okay, sure. Oh, that's is that for one of the outdated social media platforms? I vaguely remember that, and I can't remember the specifics of it. But yeah. See, I could do a watch party, because I did post another video on Jeffrey Epstein, and because with his streaming platform I have now, I can share my screen. I could bring it up and play it. Who wants to do a watch party? That sounds like a super nerdy thing to do. There are a couple ways I could just put it on full screen, really. But or if you haven't watched it, you should go off and watch it. Unless you think the vaccination for conspiracy theories is a higher funded public education. So, look, education is good, but unfortunately, what we see is a lot of very educated people falling prey. Okay, I'm going to test a thing. I'm going to test the uh, watch party concept. I'm going to bring this up. I went to a lot of trouble with the editing of this too, just by the by. Oh no, stop that. No, stop it. Okay, okay. I'm dealing with it. I'm dealing with it. Okay, so I'm going to give it a little test run, and I need to know if you hear the audio. Yes, A brief return of masks, spoiler alert. First, I've got to share my desktop. Wait, why did that not work? That should have worked. What's this doing? Wait, what's going on? That should have shared my desktop. Oh, wait, no. Wait, I know what to do. I think I have to do this. Yes. Share. Oh, so share audio, yes. Entire screen. Application window. Chrome tab. Okay. I think if I do this, share, and go full screen. Now I need to know, are you hearing the audio? No audio. Okay. I know what I have to do. Oh wait, no, I know what I did wrong. Like I had the audio turned off. Now are you hearing the audio?
G'day viewers, welcome to a particularly important edition of the Angry News. Because as I say in the titles, everyone else is lying to you. You know how people on the internet say, hey, unpopular opinion, but, and then they say something that isn't an unpopular opinion. They say something like, oh, unpopular opinion, but puppies are cute. And it's like, no, you just want attention. Your opinion is not even mildly controversial. 9 times out of 10, these people, am I the only one who... No, you said that just so everyone else who thinks the same thing would respond because you're desperate for attention. And I'm desperate for attention. So here is my genuinely unpopular opinion. The most likely thing with the death of Jeffrey Epstein is he died by his own hand. I know virtually everyone has gone wild. It's the conspiracy to end all conspiracies. People who should know better are saying it's literally impossible that he killed himself. The evil cabal got him. People who will never know better, I just think they haven't stopped jizzing in their pants, because this, I'm not even joking. I think this, unless we get a really simple resolution and find out someone did have him murdered and they're found guilty, this could be the biggest conspiracy of the next 10, 20 years easily. People who in their formative years, people like, I think particularly people in their 20s and 30s seeing this will be telling stories about this their whole life. If you don't know about Jeffrey Epstein, I'm impressed. I literally don't know how you could have avoided hearing about him. But he is one bizarre and outrageous character. He was in prison awaiting trial for incredibly serious sex offense charges that everyone knew he'd been guilty of for decades, and he'd previously gone to trial and been convicted of sex offenses, but got the most ridiculous slap on the wrist sentence you can think of, and then just went back to pimping to the rich and famous when he got out of prison. How rich and famous were the people he associated with, you ask? Well, here's the thing. It's like everybody. It's 2 US presidents at least, named Bill Clinton and Donald Trump. There's an unnamed prime minister who's probably Tony Blair of England or Ehud Barak of Israel. There is Prince Andrew from the British royal family. There is basically every millionaire and billionaire you have and haven't heard of. There is an array of extremely well-known and respected scientists, including Stephen Hawking, who all appear to have been involved with Epstein. We don't yet have conclusive evidence these people definitely engaged in the sexual abuse of minors at parties Epstein hosted. It just really, really looks like it. So with all those incredibly powerful people who are potentially going to be implicated in Epstein's trial, why don't I think that someone had him whacked while he was in prison? Well, honestly, it's Occam's razor. It's the simplest explanation is he did kill himself. Yeah, but shouldn't someone have stopped him from killing himself? This trial was the highest profile criminal trial in America, pretty much. You hit on something important there, old glasses me. Yes, indeed, someone should have stopped him from committing suicide. Well, there it is. That's the conspiracy. He couldn't have committed suicide without a conspiracy to create the situation where that was possible. You raise a good point, and there may well have been a criminal conspiracy involved in putting him in circumstances where he could commit suicide. But you are overlooking one thing. There is a wise old saying that says, never ascribe to malice that which can be adequately explained by stupidity and incompetence. If you actually talk to anyone who knows the American prison system, the American criminal justice system, it's woefully understaffed, it's woefully underfinanced, it's woefully mismanaged, it's just a colossal shit show. So you're okay if I say it was a conspiracy to put him in a situation where it was possible for him to kill himself and no one would intervene, which is what should have been the situation. Someone should have been there to stop him. He should have been under surveillance to stop him from killing himself. So you're happy with me saying it was a conspiracy to put him in that situation? You make a good point, and that is honestly reasonably likely. We literally only have two possibilities. He's dead because of the worst incompetence and mismanagement imaginable, or there was a criminal conspiracy to put him in a situation where he could end his own life. Neither of those are good. So you think it's impossible that someone actually had him whacked? Oh no, not impossible. Reasonably likely, as high as 25% chance that he was actively murdered. I don't think it's higher than that because it's too high risk that would then make the perpetrator look even worse. You know, unless you just really do believe in a shadowy global elite who to some extent do exist. But, you know, it's getting weird and paranoid when there is a much simpler explanation. It was the Clintons! Honestly, it's cute that people think the Clintons have that much power. If they really had that sort of near mystical power, Hillary would have been president. I mean, for God's sake. She even won the popular vote, yet somehow missed out. No, the Clintons just don't have that juice. If he was killed, there is a very long list of potential suspects. Basically, all these rich and powerful people. And it's honestly more likely to be someone apart from the Clintons. I'd say, in order of magnitude, if he was murdered, the person behind it is someone whose name we won't necessarily immediately recognize. And a long way further down the list is Trump, and way below that is the Clintons. None of these are impossible. They're simply not the most obvious likelihood. Question: if you're going to start talking to yourself in videos again, why don't you crack out the masks like the good old days? No, those days are gone. That's the past. It's time to move on. You don't know where the masks are, do you? I do not. Found one! That is horrible and creepy. Take it off. You are no fun. What happened to you, man? What happened to the good times? When did you get so serious? Whatever happened to fun? What happened to me that the world changed? Nazis came back. You make a good point. It would be very remiss of us to pretend that there wasn't a problem with the rise of the extreme right and their scumbags. But you really think this wasn't a conspiracy to murder Jeffrey Epstein? I really don't. Although, honestly, anything's possible. His whole life reads like the most bizarre conspiracy ever. Being a teacher at a private school that he wasn't qualified for, supposedly being picked out of a parent-teacher interview to work for Bear Stearns. Something happened there. He starts up a hedge fund. Somehow, mysteriously, he gets billions of dollars, and he has these parties with underage girls in them, and he is just horrible and the worst person, yet somehow escaped punishment for decades. So there's definitely a conspiracy involved here. I just don't know if there was a conspiracy to murder him. Oh, go ahead then. Be boring. We could have gone to town on this. Have it your way, even just with the glasses thing. But I think it's risky. You'll forget who's wearing what. Not likely. Anyway, that's my unpopular opinion. Jeffrey Epstein probably wasn't murdered. He probably ended his own life. But that doesn't mean the circumstances around it weren't part of a criminal conspiracy, because we are in a super weird world here where nothing makes sense. And whatever comes out of this, there will always be people who don't believe the official story, maybe with good reason. But honestly, there's a bunch of people out there who should pull their heads in. When the most rational person you know is sounding like the most deranged person you've ever heard of, it's time to take stock, step back, and think about things. That's the news, and that's the truth.
Okay, well, that was fun. That was fun doing something a bit different. Having a little watch party. Ooh, this fun. Okay. Oh, and hello, Adele. You came in just while we were watching a video. You know what? I was even thinking as I did that, what could be fun to do now that this is relatively easy for me to do, to put the video on. I could like play old videos. I could relive the old Angry Aussie days, bring out the greatest hits. That could be fun. Oh, Del, you're doing your human rights law at uni. How's that going? Let's get Anthony Bourdain was obviously killed by Clinton operatives. Oh my God, it is just so sad when someone who from the outside has everything going on, but your brain, Jesus, this is what I get really pissed off with people who. It's not just that they don't understand mental illnesses like depression, anxiety, or other, just like they really aggressively refuse to accommodate them. And they go, so, don't take those pills, go out and have a walk in the sunshine. And go, look, in broadly general terms, things like being physically active and eating properly and getting out and about are positives. And they can, really help people. But it's like, mental health issues aren't caused by one thing. Sometimes they're a reaction to trauma, severe psychological or physical trauma. Sometimes they're environmental, simply like where you are and what you're going through wears you down. But sometimes nothing's wrong and you literally have a chemical imbalance in your brain and your brain is telling you wrong things. And we are at the mercy of our fucking brains and what they tell us. And if your brain is telling you wrong things, positive thoughts and a walk in the sunshine isn't going to do a goddamn fucking thing. Which is not to say in some parts of the world, notably the US, people aren't being overprescribed, because I think there are circumstances where that is happening. But fuck me, I hate people who are glib about mental health issues and who refuse to accept it. It's just like, Ah, it's just fucked. Um, just that hideous fucking new age shit of like, showing pills. That's not an antidepressant, and then it's like a walk in the forest. This is an antidepressant. Get fucked. Antidepressants don't, for example, don't work for everyone. Sometimes they have really quite negative effects on people. But for some people, literally nothing else will help. For a lot of people, medication is part of a complete solution. But there are people who, because the source of their problem is a chemical imbalance in their brain, literally nothing but some chemical support will help. And again, that chemical imbalance can be caused by trauma. It can, build up because of environmental issues, or there may be no actual reason for it. It's just your brain being a mean fucker to you. Ashoka, you wanted me to bring back the 2008 style? I might have just been more passionate. I mean, there's no two ways about it that, 10 years ago was my high point, which in many ways is really sad. But anyway, yeah, Aleska, you're absolutely right that antidepressants and other medication doesn't work for everyone. And there are definitely cases where it has the opposite to the desired effect. And anyone who relies on chemical solutions alone without, a proper consultation and proper managing, that can end very badly. And in fact, it's common, like you can be healthy. So you say you put on weight. Uh, the And AIDS has had this thing. He's been put on medication, and a side effect of it was really quite severe suicidal ideation. He never acted on it, and he never, felt suicidal. But there's suicidal ideation specifically means your brain starts to go, you know what you could do now, and your brain gets really specific in essentially suggesting to you scenarios where you could end your own life, and your brain tries to convince you that that would be a good idea, and is pretty bizarre when the side effect of some antidepressants is more severe depression. It's because people aren't the same, and anyone going for a one solution fits all approach is, it's going to end badly. I like that, Adele. You actually, yeah, lavender moisturizer in there is good as medication. And but see, that's the thing. Smells are very powerful, and if you're lucky enough to have found the right thing for you, like if that triggers positive associations in your brain, that's a real thing, and that's fantastic. It's just the people like that fucking Fruit Loop who's running for president, who was one of the Democratic nominees, Marianne, what's her name? She just says the worst fucking hippy dippy shit about really, really, really serious health issues. So yeah. So do you think financial and lifestyle issues are the main cause of illness? Well, interestingly, um, you know, you may or may not have noticed I'm a fat bastard. I'd kind of rather not be, but I'm also very lazy. Um, but it's very interesting because, weight's a health issue, and I think it is. And there's a number of health and general well-being reasons that I'd like to lose weight, and I might, apply myself a bit more to it at some point. But there's a fairly strong school of thought at the moment that basically unhappiness will kill you faster than anything else, which is wild when you think about it. It's, yeah, environmental things, and combined with and I don't mean environmental as in pollution, although pollution will fucking kill you. Um, I just mean, your life, your lifestyle, and your mood can kill you faster than like anything else. My God. Justin, how is that out of 20 something candidates, only two are worth voting for? Well, one could argue with such a big country why there's so few people worth voting for. Who are your two? I mean, because if I nailed it down to two, it would be Sanders and Warren. Uh, yeah, the rest not so much, quite honestly. Not at all, really. I was going, you love the old song, Don't Worry, Be Happy. Oh my God, I had this angry stand-up routine at one point about how don't worry, be happy is the worst fucking thing ever. I'm like, really? Really? You want to go and find kids who are starving, who are dying of childhood cancers and say to them, don't worry, be happy? How the fuck is that going to work? What exactly is going to happen there? How the fuck is that going to help? I went on a real rant. It's really funny. I mean, not necessarily funny, haha, but I find it funny to go on rants like that. So. Yeah, let's get. You think De Blasio's a communist? The communist billionaire. Oh, Kaiju, you think someone like Sanders Orange should be in Senate? But of course, there are some of those people whose ego has led them to believe they should nominate for the Democratic candidate who would be doing much better for the party and their country in Senate races. People like Beto O'Rourke, for instance. Musical there. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think Andrew Yang's a dick. I just think he's talking shit. I just think yeah, I just think he's got very little to offer. Yeah, Ogumba, you bring up an important point, and there are things we don't understand and probably never will. And that, to me, is a very delicate juggling act because it is literally true. There are things that currently are far beyond our understanding. And what history tells us is we will continue to discover things we had accepted as truth are not so much. But maintaining that open mind, but not being one of these fucking idiots who goes, yeah, science doesn't know everything. So maybe I really do have spirit pixies floating around my head. Maybe my life is guided by a divine. And it's like, no, could we not just say really fucking stupid shit? Could we stay open minded but not say really dumb shit? That really bothers me. Justin, you reckon if Sanders got the nomination, he'd choose Warren for VP? I will go out on a limb and say if Warren got the nomination, she wouldn't choose Sanders for VP. But who knows? Weirder things have happened. She seems to like Kamala Harris, actually, which is weird because Kamala Harris is just a fucking cop. Kamala Harris, so establishment, so conservative, not to be trusted. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. You go. I mean, seriously, what's that old line? I think it was attributed to Isaac Asimov. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. But I mean, seriously, explain computer chips and silicon. It's like we taught rocks to think. It's just like, what the fuck? We taught rocks to think with electricity. It's just like, my God. How is that not magic? How are computers not magic? An internal combustion engine, for fuck's sake, something we take for granted and is so complicated So complicated, and yet it works. I mean, holy crap, humans do amazing things, quite honestly. Ashoka, you are right that Elizabeth Warren is much more representing the mainstream and the corporate class than Sanders. An interesting thing I heard on a podcast by these dirtbag left types, the Chapo Trap House, who just hugely back Bernie and no one else. But while they just over the top back Bernie and no one else, they've also really resignedly said if he won, if he became president, he wouldn't just be fighting the Republicans, he'd be fighting the establishment of the Democratic Party. The legislative Democrats would be fighting him all the time as well, which is a really nihilistic worldview. Not necessarily wrong, but really nihilistic. Oh yeah, Del, fucking. What? Sorry. Oh yeah, Harris, Kamala Harris. Yeah, yeah. No, she's a fucking cop. Pugwash. I'm not sure. Oh, it was Arthur C. Clarke. It wasn't Isaac Asimov. It was Arthur C. Clarke who said any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. I do like. There's a thing in the recent Star Trek series Discovery on Netflix where they played with that and they talked about a lower technology civilization building a religion around space travelers because it was a corollary of that concept of any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. There's also any sufficiently advanced race is indistinguishable from a god. Comrade Day, you're a Goon and Pepsi guy. That is such a disturbing concept. But since you bring up such things, I am going to make a nuclear daiquiri. And I've got to decide my own variant of it. Yes, I know what I'm going to do. Okay. I've got to get the components for a nuclear daiquiri to mark World Rum Day. Ah, okay. There's my cocktail shaker. Okay. So I was looking up rum recipes, and of course daiquiri came up. What do I want? Do I want cachaça? I'll just make it with rum, actually. Make it with two sorts of rum. And I want this and this and this. All right. It's got to be very tropical. Do I want to make a nuclear daiquiri or a nuclear zombie? Ah, Comrade Day, you're in Western Australia and volunteered for the Greens. Good for you. Yeah, I have a few problems with the Greens. More problems with Labor these days. Yeah, the nuclear daiquiri I found was basically a standard daiquiri, but had what is it? Chartreuse added, which is quite a strong spirit. I was thinking of even going further than that. But if I go further than that, it's more like I'm going to make nuclear zombie. So all the sorts of rum. Where's my cachaça? I'm just trying to decide what to do. Yourself for a daiquiri sounds very Aussie. Got to. Ah, nice. Adele Opie's there. Yeah, come on, Dad. Involved. Look, getting involved is way bigger than just voting. I'm completely on board with you getting involved. So, oh, I need the ice. I've got to chill my cup. And I like a big old chunk of ice. Get a big old chunk of ice and put it in there. All right. So, what else am I going to put in here? Shasha. What else will I put in? Banana. Okay, this is just getting mental now. All right. I just came up with this one. Okay, I've got my cocktail shaker. Nuclear Zombie. It's probably unnecessary, but I'm going to put a little bit of agave syrup in there. A little bit of agave syrup. Right. So this, like any good zombie cocktail, is going to have lots of different sorts of. Wait, where did my jigger? Sure, I had it. Sure, I got when I was getting myself ready. I love my little measuring thing. There it is. Knew I got it. Okay. So a zombie. A couple different sorts of rum. Got the Kraken black rum. Put that in there. Some Captain Morgan spiced rum. All right. Some cachaça, which is Brazilian spirit, which is like rum, as I mentioned before, but it's made with sugarcane syrup rather than molasses. So it's clear and has a different sort of flavor profile. Let's see, I'm going to fruity it up a bit with some banana liqueur. This is pretty deadly. This second half could get wild, kids. Buckle up. Some banana. Where do I get the more obscure spirits? Well, you need to go to a specialist sometimes, and there is a particularly good specialist in Melbourne called the Wiggs Cellar. But you can get a lot of these things online as well. But even Dan Murphy's has a pretty good range. Wait, did I get? No, I didn't get the chartreuse. Chartreuse. This is the serious shit, the 50% alcohol. So we'll put a little bit of chartreuse in, because besides being high alcohol, there's a very strong flavour as well. Put that in there. Green chartreuse. They proudly say it's the only naturally green coloured spirit. Every other green spirit has food colouring in it. And they're very proud. They say chartreuse is naturally green. Oh, Tara, it's a bit like a Fallout 76. I'm going to make a Nuka-Cola another time with my blue absinthe. Okay, that's all the alcohol I'm putting in. I'm going to put in a bit of this lime cordial. I don't have any lime juice, but I'm going to put a bit of this lime cordial and mixed with lemon juice. You get both green and yellow chartreuse. The green is a bit stronger. So lemon lime. And just because this is a variation on a tiki drink, which is very tropical, I'm going to put some of this soursop nectar in as well. This, by the way, is something I've never made before. So I don't know what it's going to taste like. That's a good philosophical question, Safa. Does angry understand ping? Yes. Ping is how you tell the gap between people online. I know back from the old days in IRC text chat. You go shaky, 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 shaky. This would have been an interesting colour too. No, actually, it's probably just going to be brown. Probably not going to be interesting. It's probably just going to be brown. Well, okay, Alaska, I'm not literally going to make Nuka-Cola because I don't want nuclear waste. I'm just going to make a bright blue drink. Yes, it's an orangey brown colour. So the colour is not that good. I'm interested in what the colour looks like on the screen. Ooh, nice. Charlie, you made some blueberry cider. That does sound good. Ha! Bugwash, you're old. It looks quite orange on there, doesn't it? Yeah. He who laughs last is on 2600 bowed. Oh my God. I remember that joke from the 90s. My God. All us old people should hang out together. So, ping worse in Australia because of our geolocation. Ping's worse in Australia because of our shithouse internet from our shithouse government. Ha! Gun Buddy pings the noise the machine in the maternity ward. Machine that goes bing. Oh, Pugwash, you got into MUDs. I never really got into MUDs. For those who don't know, that's text-based online role-playing, multiple user dungeons, and from which sprang the MMORPGs, massive multiplayer online role-playing games. MUDs. And what was Moose? It was MUDs and Moose. I don't know. Oh, I should taste my drink, shouldn't I? It's nice actually. Smells pretty good. Alaska, you're not the only one who prefers artificial orange with vodka as opposed to orange juice. I've heard that before. It does look a bit like Fanta. It is just Fanta. I'm just fooling you. I don't drink alcohol. Alcohol is very bad. This is just Fanta. Nazi drink. Pugwash, you were doing a computer science degree in 1990. Yes. That was when people were first discovering how much fun you could have online. You're in a mud, got into one after 3 years, and all your clothes rotted off your body. That would happen if you don't change your clothes for 3 years. Oh, yeah, Alaska, confirmed fascist drinking Nazi Fanta. It's pretty good. No one flavor is dominating. And in fact, I think it's a combination of the lemon and lime is one of the strongest flavors in there. So, hey, Feeler and Sealer, how you doing? Feely and Sealer. I always said Feeler and Sealer. It's Feely. Anyway, how you doing? Oh, Suffer. That's the Ashes in it. Australia bowling got England at 2 for 42. There you go. So, yeah, I'm surprised because chartreuse is quite a strong flavour. And I mean, there's a couple of different rums in there as well, and the banana. And I'm not really tasting the banana. I think it's like the fruity stuff. I see. Oh, gross. Grape soda and vodka. Who said grape soda and vodka taste like wine? Gross. Tastes like ass. That is believable. See, Pugwash, you're being less flattering than other people. You think it looks like a dehydrated person's urine. I prefer it when people said it looked like Fanta. It looks actually more like urine from my end. You're getting a slightly false color there. It's slightly murkier on my side. That sounds like a wise choice, Justin, moving interstate, taking your spirits and alcohol in your car rather than giving them to a moving company. Okay, yeah. I always assumed it was two people, the username. Feely is you and Sela is wife. Yeah, okay. I had always assumed it was two people. Oh, good God. Gun Bunny got some Marines pissed on chartreuse one night. I bet it was hilarious. That just sounds super, super, super out there. Oh, no, it does taste better. Well, not a huge expert on pee drinking, but it tastes pretty good. Like I said, the dominant flavor is actually the lemon and lime I put in. Yeah, it's actually really deceptive because that was what did I put in? It's probably about 3 standard drinks. I'm just eyeballing it from the amount of alcohol I put in there. It's about 3 standard drinks, I suppose. So yeah, I wouldn't want to drive a car after this. I'd be in the danger zone. Not in an art. Well, I was going to say not in an archway, but oh no, actually yes, in an archway. Except he'd be way over 3 standard drinks on a single cocktail he makes. Um, but yeah, you never know. The second you get into the last half hour, yeah. I think I mean, see, the Marines didn't have the same drinking culture as us and can't have the booze. Well, it's the thing. Hard liquor is made much more taboo in the US. Like when they're younger, it's a big thing to only drink beer. Whereas in Australia, Australians aren't shy about drinking beer, obviously, but Australians are also not shy about drinking spirits. So Aussie standard drinks the same as US standard drinks. With nothing to really back me up, I'm going to say yes because that's the principle of a standard drink. Um, but honestly, when you talk about standard drinks, uh, it's really how should we say imprecise because if you're drinking beers are different strengths, wine's a different strength. Sometimes, like people fall into the mistake of thinking, oh, a standard drink, like basically in very broad terms. In Australia, where the blood alcohol content limit for driving is 0.05, very broadly, um, men hit the limit at about 3 standard drinks, and women hit it at about 2, and then you'll stay there. Sorry, 3 standard drinks in an hour, and you'll stay there just by drinking 1 standard drink an hour after that. Now, some people, oh, well, that means 3 drinks. No, often when someone pours a glass of wine, it's often 2 or even 3 standard drinks, depending how much they fill the glass. Uh, and even beers, like, you know, depending on the strength of the beer, if you have a pint, you could be over the legal limit. It's only 1 drink, or it's maybe 2. No, you could easily be over the limit with 1 pint of beer. No, so for drink driving is illegal in the US, although I don't think they're as full on about it as in Australia. And you are right, Russians seem to have a terrifying capacity for drinking vodka. What do you think? Yeah, Gunbunny, the standard drink thing is it's only approximation because people's physiologies are different. There is a measure for, it's this much spirit or this much wine or this much, but then you get different strength beers, different strength wine, different strength spirits. And I put in so the average strength of a spirit is like 40%. And this Gashasha is 40%. Captain Morgan, his wussy is only 35%. The Kraken is 40%. I think. Chartreuse is 50%. I did put a bit of the banana in, but this is only 20%. I think. These ones are more for flavor. Yeah, this is 20%. So I put a little bit of each of those in. So it's like one. I think one. Someone correct me. I think one shot of a 40% spirit is a standard drink, or I might be underestimating it. If I do a search, how much is a standard drink? 14 grams of pure alcohol, which is found in 12 ounces of beer, 5 ounces of wine, 1.5 ounces. So one shot. Yeah, okay. That's what I thought. One shot is basically a standard drink. And that's why I eyeballed it a bit with what I poured. But this is probably 3 standard drinks, which is enough to put me over the limit. So do I go to pubs often? No, I do not. I more often go out for cocktails with Mrs. Angry, but that's usually to a restaurant. But I'll go out with friends sometimes. I go to cocktail bars more than pubs. So yeah, pub. I'm more likely to go to pubs for the food, actually. Alaska moonshine's 60% alcohol. Yes, well, moonshine's a fairly diabolical thing. I know Australian-made spirits have been growing in the last couple of years. For a long time, we've had Bundaberg rum, which is a very big drink made in the cane fields up in Queensland. That was Australia's signature spirit, Bundaberg rum. But there's been a lot of boutique spirits made in Australia, whiskies, vodkas, and gins. And I have seen some people market a spirit they've made as moonshine, as a high alcohol white grain spirit. Dr. Bowman, did you hear about the mini stock market crash? Yes, I did. Like, was it 3% in one day? Which is fucking lot. Fucking lot. 3% in one day is not catastrophic, but it's bad. And if it's the start of a trend, I've been mortified for the last 10 years. I've been expecting something catastrophic to happen into the world economy. It's probably going to happen in the next year or so. That'll be a hoot. Dale, you like Kangaroo Island spirits? Nice. They make gin. Yeah, yeah. I do see. Yeah, they're made all over the spirits in Australia now. The only other rum I know besides Bundaberg is another Queensland one called Beanley, which I've had because they make a white rum. Because I like colouring it, like putting the rock candy in it. So for stubby holders is an Aussie invention. I think they are. I'm not 100% sure, but I think stubby holders are an Australian invention. Yes, because we're very inventive. I think goon, as in box wine, is an Australian invention. Again, not 100% sure, but I think it is. Justin, when does the environmental economic crash happen? 10 or 20 years. When the economic damage from climate change, from extreme weather events start to cause billions of dollars in damage a year, when crops fail, when everything goes south, inside of 20 years, we're looking at the beginnings of disaster, which is a fun thing to think of. Comrade Dave, you're still giving shout outs to the box wine. That's what Americans call it, box wine. Here it's cask wine, or colloquially, yoon. Dr. Brahma, broadband's not just an Australian invention. Wi-Fi is an Australian invention. The CSIRO developed a bunch of good internet technology that we take for granted now. And the shitheads in the LNP have been fucking firing scientists for the last 10 years. And now they all go off and work for China or Elon Musk. So people whose education we paid for left the country, and fuck the LNP. Quite honestly, fuck them. Oh, there you go, money. I love that. You looked it up. Thomas Angrove from South Australia invented the goon bag. Did Scummo get destroyed at the Pacific Island Conference? I saw him looking like a dickhead at the Pacific Island Conference, honestly. Alaska, you're going to a Mars colony. What happens if we find out we used to live on Mars? It used to be as fertile as Earth, but we killed it, and our desperate ancestors landed on Earth and, devolved into a primitive society and then took thousands of years to come back. What if, eh? What if? I'm now of the opinion I made a very good drink. It was a bit sharp on the first mouthful, but the second half of it's going down a treat. I tell you what. Oh my God, it's only 9:30. Okay, I'm not going to make another one. I got to go to work tomorrow. As much as part of my brain's going, you know what you should do? You should drink that. and then make another one. Not doing that. Not doing that. I have to go to work tomorrow. I did hear some weird thing about the black hole, Safa. I think some of the reporting has got it really wrong. But yes, something weird happened with a black hole at the center of the galaxy. Yes. Science, eh? Science. It's great. I did see that too, Dr. Bowen. Alan Jones is fucked. They have to fucking fire him. I think his contract's up anyway. I think his contract's going to get rid of him. So that vile thing about Ardenish and stuff a fuck down our throat. He's just like a hideous, vile, festering pile of racist misogyny. He's just so fucked. He's also completely corrupt. I mean, honestly, it's just fuck. You know, all the cocktails. Look, man, tomorrow night might be a different. Tomorrow night might be a different story. I'm going to come up with a variant. I'm going to call it Nuka-Cola. A little bit of all. I think I'll make one that's got like all my clear spirits in it, and I have a few of those, and then blue absinthe. So what have I got that's clear spirits? I've got the cachaça, which is kind of like rum, pisco, which is Peruvian drink that's like brandy. I've got I think it's German apple pear schnapps, which is clear. I've got the creme de cacao. Vodka and gin are too easy. Don't want to put them in. But I've got maraschino liqueur. That's probably enough. I mean, I also have white tequila and vodka and gin, but they're too easy. As might put all those clear spirits in, then my blue absinthe make Nuka-Cola. Oh God, Gun Buddy, you were watching Fox News with your dad. I bet it was unpleasant. Suffer. Will baby boom? I want to address that actually. Will Australia get less racist when all the baby boomers finally drop dead? No, no. There are a fuck ton of young racists. See, what everyone forgets is the boomers in the 60s basically said that to their parents and older generation. You'll die, man, and then everything will be beautiful. And then all the boomers turned into reactionary fuckwits. And now we've got generations who aren't even fucking waiting to grow old. We've got 20-year-old mass fucking murderers who are driven by racism and misogyny. No, people are just fucked, basically. Every generation's fucked, and we're going to stay fucked. That is the biggest philosophical question in Australia, Alaska. How do we sleep while our beds are burning? Just more to take to kick Murdoch out of Australia. Technically, he's gone of his own accord, but I assume you mean break his stranglehold of media. Basically, reintroduce basic common sense media ownership laws that existed as recently as 10 or 20 years ago, that there had to be diversity in media ownership. We have been hurt so badly by the consolidation of media around the world. Yes, Pugwash, that's a song. That's an old Midnight Oil song. Beds Are Burning. And I mean, that's like from 1988, 87 or 88. Very old song. Now I'm having flashbacks like, who did a good cover? I have heard cover versions of it that kind of sucked. But there was a great cover done in the last year of an even older Midnight Oil song that's like very early 80s, possibly even late 70s. Power and the Passion. I think it's early 80s. Triple J, a national youth radio network in Australia. One of the best uses of taxpayer money in Australia. When was it? 1982 Power and the Passion came out. And just in the last year, oh my God, what the Presets electro pop outfit did a cover of it on a Triple J thing called Like a Version. Really good cover of it. It's very nice. Yes, Justin, I agree that foreigners shouldn't be allowed to own media in Australia, and we should go back to the old rules where you can't own a TV station and a radio station and a newspaper in the same market. We should go back to those rules. And yes, Peter Garrett from Midnight Oil was for a while an MP. He was flawed, but trying to make change. But he was one of the people who took a moral stand when Julia Gillard got offed. A couple of quite high profile MPs, people who would have been very important to the future of the Labor Party, said, no, fuck you guys. If you off Julia Gillard, I'm quitting. And he was one of them. And true to his word, when they offed Julia Gillard, he quit. That hurt Labor quite a bit. Him and a couple of others who would have been very important to the future of the Labor Party quit because they went, fuck this noise. That's a big one, Dr. Palmer. Are there worse cover bands than Beatles covers bands? Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of cover bands generally. Just not for. Yeah, I wasn't really sold on Garrett as a politician. Um, he had potential, but yeah, I was never a huge fan of him as a politician. But he's better than a bunch of them are. But that's a low fucking bar to say like, oh, it's better than most politicians. It's like saying it's better than most child molesters. Being better than the average politician is a very low bar. I do not have a high opinion of politicians generally at all, no matter what their persuasion. Ooh, Charlie, you like Beatallica, who do Beatles songs in the style of Metallica. That's interesting. Yes, I like that. I like. I mentioned the presets did a cover of Midnight Oil's "Power and the Passion" on like a version on Triple J. Triple J, which is fucking awesome, which is one of the best uses of taxpayer money in Australia. They have a weekly segment on Friday mornings where a performer comes in and plays in the studio. They do a live. They do two live songs. They do one of their own songs, and then they do a cover. And they're not all great. Mostly they're pretty good or interesting. Some are kind of shit, but some of them are fucking brilliant. And like right at the top of my list, I did mention the presets doing Power and the Passion, which was good. They had, oh my God, what was her name? This really funny Europe Scandinavian woman. What are they called? Because I'm not a huge fan of her. Aurora, that's the band's name. Aurora. She did a cover of the Beatles' "Across the Universe," which was really good. But probably my favorite like a version, certainly from the last couple of years, but probably ever, was Denzel Curry doing Rage Against the Machine's Bulls on Parade. Oh my God, it's so fucking good. It just starts like Denzel. He's got a full band in the studio, and Denzel Curry's just sort of squatting on the ground, and the band's playing, and it kind of sounds like it's gonna be a sort of straight down the line, not hugely dynamic cover of the original. And they're playing in very much the style that Rage Against the Machine plays. The guitar's a bit different, it goes da-da-da-da, and then there's that break where it goes wow wow waka waka wow 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 waka wow, and it's like, oh, it's a lead in, it's okay, and then he starts with the vocals, and Denzel Curry just goes right fucking off. He just goes, oh my God, it's such a good, like, fucking kick out the jams cover. It's great. Oh, I remember that trivia, Dr. Obama. Paul Keating managed a pop band called the Ramrods. They never actually went anywhere. But that's good. So we're talking about, oh, we're talking about China and who's the biggest threat. Yeah, I mean, China, they're totalitarians. The rest of the world is super lucky that China is mostly inwardly focused, because if China got in the mood for conquest, like if China tried to interfere with the rest of the world to the extent the US does, it would be a fucking nightmare. It would just be awful. Someone wants to use the kitchen. That's okay. No one will see you because even the curtain's drawn. You're not even a reflection. That's good. Have a good drink of filtered water before bedtime. That's the responsible thing to do. Yeah. Pay no attention to the bottles of booze surrounding me. I'm not a bad role model. That's a good question, Safa. Who's more totalitarian, China or Russia? China is very totalitarian in an inwardly focused way. Russia and Putin, based on their behavior, are far more focused on conquest than China. That was maybe that was young Mr. Angry, not young Ms. Angry. Yes, he's just getting himself a glass of water to take, to have on the bedside table, I assume. I don't know. What is he doing? I was just saying, I'm not a bad role model. Just thinking, what have I got? 1, 2, 3, 5 bottles of booze sitting around me. That. Am I a bad role model? Am I? Maybe. Who knows? Who knows? It's all ambiguous. Dr. Obama, if I was PM, would I classify the US as an ally? Well, we found out what happens if you don't. Gough Whitlam. That's what happens. The US fucks you up if you sound like you're not going to be a slavish ally and supporter. I don't know. It has gotten to the stage where it makes very little economic or political sense for us to be so slavish to the US. It would make more economic sense to align more with China. It would probably make more political sense to align more closely with Europe. But Australian politicians of all stripes are too fucking gutless to do that. Particularly the China thing. I mean, there's no way any Australian government would place China above the US because they're too fucking wussy. I'm not saying that would actually be the best thing to do. I'm just saying that if we were in a circumstance where you looked at everything and said it's an irrefutable fact, it would make better economic and political sense for us to distance ourselves from the US and get closer to China. They wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it. It's just, they're just wusses. Okay, that's all the drink on, but I'm not going to mix another one. A Pan-Asian coalition, a Eurasian coalition, all these things. Dr. Bowen thinks Sam Dastyari screwed a China relationship. Sam Dastyari is a fucking idiot. I used to like him, but he's turned into such a fucking wanker, such a narcissistic piece of shit. I just love it. I don't know who did it first. First I saw it was the cartoonist who publishes under the name First Dog on the Moon. called Sam Dastiari a meme loving fuck. And that's just stuck in my head because Sam Dastiari is always like, I'm young and hip and sharing the memes. And this guy, the cartoonist, First Dog on the Moon, just exploded at him on Twitter, called him a meme loving fuck. And I can't help but agree, quite honestly. He is a meme loving fuck, but yes. Oh, so that's right. You were traveling around Russia, seeing the Crimeans, mostly ethnic Russians. That was interesting. You heard them speaking Tatar and not Ukrainian. Yeah, but man, but geography, European geography is just fucking wild. Well, that's an interesting concept, Justin. Be less dependent on China because of their authoritarian nature, but get stronger links with India and Indonesia. I mean, fucking hell, Indonesia are an interesting case. Oh, Gun Buddy, got to head off. Thanks for hanging out, man. I'll be going soon in about 15 minutes. This is a funny thing because particularly the American and to a large extent European mindset. When they talk about Muslims, they're thinking about the Middle East, Arabic people. That's what Muslim. Or second thing they think of is African people because there are some Muslim states in Africa. But our nearest neighbor to the north, Indonesia, is the most populous Muslim nation on earth. They're, of course, Southeast Asian. Uh, so that's all kinds of fun having them immediately to the north, because for most of recent history, uh, Indonesia's been a dictatorship, sometimes run by the military, sometimes run by a dictator supported by the military, but in more recent times, they've been a democracy. Uh, but it's a potentially fraught thing. We should focus quite a bit on relations with Indonesia, and different governments have managed it to varying degrees. Um, but yes, we wouldn't, like I said, we wouldn't really want China to get conquest focused. As long as all their totalitarianism is inwardly focused, that's better for the rest of the world. But if there was sort of economic and climate catastrophes and China started running out of food and other resources, ooh, the rest of the world would have fucking problems. And if Indonesia suffered extreme economic, climate, or natural disasters, and they are an earthquake and volcano zone, that can end badly for Australia. If Indonesia had to look outward or considered that they had to look outward for resources, the first fucking place to look towards is Australia. And considering the sheer numbers of people in Indonesia, that could work very badly for Australia. So weird shit could happen to us at any given moment. Isn't that a fun thing to think about? Pugwash, Spain was invaded by the Muslims. Yes. What was the army called that did actually invade Spain? Oh my God, I only have the vaguest reading of that period of history. Trying to think. Oh, my brain has gone blank on me. The Moors were African, weren't they? And the Moors generally, I think the Moors invaded Italy, and they also just generally traded with Europe. Even Shakespeare, of course, had to play with the noble Moor. So I just remembered a really crass Monty Python sketch about a Shakespearean actor and Othello. Of all the Shakespearean leads, Othello has the least lines, and there's this absolutely weird. I mean, that's almost superfluous to say weird Monty Python sketch, but there's this one with this uh, Shakespearean actor, and he just keeps talking about how many words you have to memorize for the different roles. And like, I think it's Hamlet has the most words, and the interviewer saying like, "Oh, so that makes Hamlet the most difficult." And the actor goes, "Oh, I don't want you to think it's just about the number of words. You have to get them in the right order as well." In fact, I remember being at the Old Bailey with Larry, and we were rehearsing, and I said, "Well, Larry, we've got all the words. Now we just have to put them in the right order." And the joke about Othello is just because he has the least words doesn't make him the easiest, because he has the most pauses. And it's just, if you've done acting, it's such a funny and weird sketch. Pugwash, the Moors were Muslim. Okay. So my history is fucking sketchy. I have a broad but shallow knowledge of history. Dr. Brahma, I have not heard of the MAGA-loving idiot called Danielle Stella who's running against Ilhan Omar. I have no idea what her chances of success are either. I don't really know about the numbers in Ilhan Omar's district. Who knows? Is the MAGA idiot? Does that mean they're a Republican, or is that a Democrat trying to challenge Ilhan Omar? Berbers. That was the thing I was trying to remember them. Zaria ibn Zayd led the army of Berbers, conquered much of modern-day southern Spain. That was the name of the army I was trying to remember, the Berbers. I didn't think it was the Moors. Sorry, I love that as a description, Dr. Obama. The MAGA idiot is a Republican who speaks like a crackhead. Yeah, well, there's a few of them. Because as I understand, Ilhan Omar's district is a fairly safe Democratic seat. If the big thing was that she knocked off an incumbent Democrat for the nomination for the seat, same as AOC. It's not so much that she beat a Republican because it was a very safe Democratic district. The big deal was she beat an incumbent, a guy who'd been the incumbent for a couple of decades. She decided this guy was shit and was just taking everyone for granted and ran against him, and against all odds actually beat him for the Democratic seat. This is a bit bleak misfoxification, but I also think you're basically right that politicians like having enemies. They don't care about the collateral damage. It makes them feel kind of tough. Sorry, the more I think about American politics, it's just so like ridiculous fucking shit, like Ted Cruz introducing a bill to declare Antifa a terrorist group when there is no such group as Antifa. Antifa is an expression of a position. It is literally the opposition to fascism. There's no Antifa organization with members and office holders, etc. Whereas there are actual right-wing terrorist groups who murder people, who do have a structure, who do have members, who do have office holders, and they're actual criminals and murderers. But yeah, and then the wording of the bill Ted Cruz tried to put in was so vague. It just talked about left-wing activists. It's fucking insane. Absolutely fucking insane. The heretic, that's a fun conspiracy there. If Trump wins again, he'll declare himself president for life so he doesn't have to face criminal charge. Because, yeah, it's now become clear that he's obviously a criminal And the only reason, like, the Mueller investigation didn't go after him is because they had a belief they can't charge a sitting president. He sort of definitely showed that there was dodgy as shit activity happening, but it wasn't his role to prosecute. Yeah, no, this is the thing I keep coming back to. What will happen when Trump goes? And look, probably nothing because I'm so used to these right-wing fuckheads like the South will rise again, and they never do. The most likely outcome is nothing. Apathy means maybe some protests, maybe some shouting people, but there is absolutely a non-zero chance of extremely violent uh, reactionaries doing something when Trump goes, and under whatever circumstances Trump goes. If the Democrats grow a spine and impeach him and then he faces charges, his base might go nuts. If he loses the next election, he'll refuse to accept it and his base might go nuts. If he just serves 2 terms and has to leave, he might say that's not right, and his base might go nuts. If he drops dead, which is a reasonable likelihood, is fucking nutcase base declare conspiracy and might go nuts. I still think the most likely outcome is nothing. Life just goes on. But they might go nuts. Who knows? Justin, you're betting money on AOC running in 2024 if Trump wins in 2020. It's not. That's not a bad bet. That's a reasonable bet. I mean, Dr. Obama asking, will the Democrat progressive wing come? I don't know. This nomination round will be telling. Like the only two who sort of qualify as progressives out of the 20 who've thrown their hat in the ring are Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. And Elizabeth Warren is much more establishment than Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is the one pushing the truly radical ideas. It's like, God, possibly their worst possible pick would be Joe Biden. He's just so fucked. He is so fucked. He's possibly their worst possible pick. And I will stick by Kamala Harris is scary as fuck. She's just a cop, and the establishment loves Kamala Harris because she's so establishment. Oh God, Alaska, Bill de Blasio, the humble multimillionaire. Bill de Blasio is not terrible. He's just a bit fucking weird, honestly. I don't have anything active. I don't have much actively negative to say about Bill de Blasio. I just don't have anything positive to say about him. And the rest of them are just fucking nobodies who should either fuck off or run for the Senate or both. It's at this early stage, it's very easy to be very, very wrong. But I think the front runners in terms of number of votes are Biden, Harris, Warren, and Sanders. Be interesting to see how right I am because they're going to, in the coming months, they're going to quite aggressively sort of winnow down the numbers. But I reckon those are the top four. Dr. Moore, my thoughts on Yang. Yang's a bit of a joke, quite honestly. He has almost nothing in the way of practical solutions. He's just gone with hey, universal basic income, which as a concept, I'm more than a little bit behind, but I don't really think Yang's got anything significant to offer. What Aussie should Justin? What Aussie should go in US politics? You mean to get rid of them, or because I think they might? See, this is the weirdest thing. Like even the majority of the Liberal Party here, if they went into US politics, would be more progressive than a decent chunk of the Democratic Party. But yeah, if I assume, are you talking about for presidential style politics, which can't happen because of the US Constitution? You have to be a natural born citizen to be president. But if that wasn't there, I mean, I reckon Turnbull would love that sort of shit. Turnbull's so ego driven. I think he'd love that sort of shit. Run as a Democratic nominee for president. In terms of a good laugh, in his prime, Paul Keating would have been hilarious. Could you imagine Paul Keating just fucking tearing into people in US politics the way he used to tear into people in Australia? That would just be great. Just to shake shit up. Someone like Paul Keating in his prime going into US politics. That would be a treat. Oh, Larry Green, de Blasio is pretending to be a left-wing populist. No, he's a fucking millionaire. He's establishment. I agree with you. He kowtowed to the corporate side. De Blasio is establishment to the fucking hilt. So, question, you reckon Pine would love it? I don't know. I think Pine's too much of a shrinking violet. He does love attention, but yeah, no, I think he's too much of a shrinking violet to go to really high stakes stuff. I don't know. I just really reckon Turnbull would love the ego status of the US presidential system. You're right, Ruddy's an asshole, but his ego would also love it. Yeah, Dr. Obama, Hawkey probably would have loved it. But yeah, my number one pick would definitely be Keating in his prime to just fucking stir shit up. So who is an establishment in the Democrats? Bernie Sanders, basically. If you're talking about people who are nominating for presidential position, Bernie Sanders is the only one who's not establishment. Some are more than others, but he's the only one who's outside the establishment. Anyway, it's 10 o'clock. So once again, I need to thank you, fine people, for sharing time with me. It has, as usual, been most enjoyable. Hope you enjoyed it too. Hope to see you again soon. I will probably do another live stream on the weekend with Eva. Hey, I might even do something wacky, like I think Aidsy's still in hospital with his broken bones. I'll try and see him on the weekend. Maybe I can take my phone in and do a short live stream from hospital to say hi. That would be fun. I might try and do that. But we shall see. We shall see what happens. Look after yourself, one and all. Hope to see you again soon. But I will say bye for now. I never really know how long it